I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you all on behalf of the Oxford University Pakistan Society and the Oxford Union. Today we have amongst us a very distinguished and an eminent guest who has been kind enough to take out time for us from her very busy schedule. Ms. Hina Rabani is the serving Foreign Minister of Pakistan and has previously served as the Minister of State for Finance and Economic Affairs and was also the first Pakistani woman to present the budget in the National Assembly. In July 2011, Ms. Kerr was appointed to head the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and remains the first and the youngest female to head the ministry. I would now like to invite Ms. Kerr to take the stage and address the August gathering. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just say that it is my honor to be here today. And this honor, especially so because, as you mentioned, Lauren, this union has a special place in Pakistan because our much admired Prime Minister, Benazir Bhutto, was a president at the Oxford Union. And I remember, let me recall the words from her book, Daughter of the East, where she writes in a chapter which was entitled The Dreaming Spires of Oxford. She writes, and I quote, "My victory in December of 1976 upset what was really an old boys' club, where only 10 years before women had been restricted to the upstairs gallery and where the membership ratio still ran at 7 men to 1 woman and surprised everyone, including my father." So I hope, Lauren, today, 36 years after that, you don't still feel that this is an old boys' club. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a different thing today. I'm not going to be apologetic to be the Foreign Minister of Pakistan. It is indeed tempting for me, but something that I'm going to resist, to go into an elongated and an hackneyed defense of Pakistan. This seems to be the Pakistani burden that we all have to carry as Pakistanis, and especially me as the Foreign Minister of Pakistan. We are expected to explain forever or justify what Pakistan is, what Pakistan has become, what Pakistan's past has been, and most importantly, what is Pakistan's future going to be? I'm not going to engage in any of that. I'm here to talk to you about why we feel that the future of Pakistan has unique, has innate, and has uninterruptible qualities that will ensure a more prosperous, a safer, and a more enriching Pakistan for the younger generations. For the Dinas and the Anayas, those are the names of my daughters, their lives are going to be, the future that we bequeath to them is going to be a better future than the future that was bequeathed by our grandparents and our parents to us. And what are these unique, what I'm calling to be unique, innate, and hopefully uninterruptible qualities? The first one is going to surprise all of you. It is that of democracy. Pakistan has a democratic ethos and tradition that runs deep through every aspect of political, social, and economic life. We truly believe that the best way to help achieve human potential is through the freedoms and protections afforded by a truly democratic order. A democratic order informed by our values. The second of these is demography. Pakistan is also one of the youngest countries in the world. More than 60% of all Pakistanis are under the age of 30. Simply put, Pakistan's working age population is growing faster than the total population for at least the next 3 decades. Therefore, we believe that young Pakistanis, some of whom study and also illuminate the halls of Oxford University, are a resource unlike any other because they represent the demographic dividend for Pakistan. And I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, you know very well that when the concept of BRICS was first introduced by Goldman Sachs, this is Brazil, Russia, India, China, leading the growth and development for the world. A few years back, the demographic dividend was a major part of it. And then the same institution, when they talked about the N11 or the next 11, highlighted Pakistan together with Turkey and Indonesia and many other countries as the next 11 which are likely to grow and be at the top or lead world economic growth. Now the third one is even more surprising. It is dissonance. Because Pakistan today has one of the most vibrant, the bravest, and the most irreverent public discourses that you will find anywhere in the world. not only within the developing world or within South Asia or within the Muslim world, but literally anywhere in the world. And we are a country that has an incredible capacity for self-criticism. We are comfortable with intense self-scrutiny and with intense criticism. These are now few attributes build as much character as the ability to absorb and internalize this level of criticism. So combined together, Pakistan's democracy, Pakistan's demographics, and the intense dissonance within the Pakistani discourse offer the promise of a more prosperous, of a safer, and certainly a more enriching future for Pakistan than any other time in its history. So let's take each of these and examine them carefully. Now, first of all, democracy. For a country that has suffered from a disequilibrium of civilian and military power, that has suffered through multiple martial law administrations, that has suffered 3 military dictators, perhaps many cynics, and perhaps many in the room today, would like to ask the question, to what extent is the Pakistani ethos truly democratic? Now, to dismiss the intense democratic aspirations and the culture of democracy that defines Pakistan, however, in my view, would be at least superficial. So just take a look at the first statements which are made by every military dictator when they first defy the constitution and take power. They always seem to ache for democratic legitimacy. They come and they promise elections. They co-opt and partner with mainstream politicians. They hold referendums. They make speech after speech after speech, beseeching us about the virtues of their vision for a democracy that works. Now, in doing so, they often forget that working democracies do not work because of the desires of individuals, but because of the collectively negotiated will of the people of that country. This aching for democratic legitimacy by military dictators is an expression of how deeply democratic the culture of Pakistan truly is. Now, of course, military dictators don't go easily. Over the last several decades, Pakistani democracy has become progressively more and more assertive. This is why the most recent military government lost power, because after a certain point in time, the people just cannot tolerate an imposed order any longer. And while at Davos, I was recently asked in a question and answer session as to why the Arab Spring is not hitting Pakistan. And I said, because of time. They said, what does that exactly mean? And I said, well, if it was 4 years from today, if it was 5 years from today, the Arab Spring would have hit Pakistan, and we would have been maybe the first ones to be hit. But what is the Arab Spring going towards? A democratic dispensation. Here I'm mentioning that Pakistan's dispensation today is maybe even more democratic than many of the mature democracies in the country, because our ability to take criticism which almost harms even what we feel to be our national interest is larger, I can assure you, than many of the more established democracies the world over. So this is not at all to, of course, suggest that repeated military interventions have not done their damage to the fabric of the Pakistani democracy. They clearly have. Every time we get rid of a dictatorship, we have to push, reset, and reinitiate the process of institutional growth, organizational renewal, and collective accountability. Most of Pakistan's enduring challenges today, from the economy to security, are rooted in the after effects of a sustained assault on organizational and institutional integrity and fidelity of a democracy. Now, the repeated experience of having our formal democratic order being interrupted and re-engineered has helped forge a steeling of democratic values. This may seem counterintuitive to those interested only in the quick and dirty inconvenience of a superficial reading of Pakistan or what it is today. But let us examine the evidence. Since February 2008, when this government came into power, the coalition of government of the Pakistan People's Party and its allies, as well as the political opposition in Pakistan, have come together to amend the constitution 3 times, ladies and gentlemen. And constitutional amendments in Pakistan used to only happen to be able to accommodate undemocratic dictatorial regimes. With 2/3 majority in the constitution, in the parliament, democratic regimes in Pakistan were not able to do any constitutional change. These amendments to the constitution have not been whimsical or trivial. The 18th Amendment fundamentally restored the spirit of a classical parliamentary democracy that was envisioned by the framers of the 1973 Constitution. The 19th Amendment helped resolve the issue of judicial appointments. which has been a sticking point between the judicial community and the political dispensation or political system for many years. The 20th Amendment, the most recent, only 4 days old or 5 days old, which was passed unanimously in the National Assembly, resolved the long-standing set of issues surrounding the depth and fidelity of the elections process and the Election Commission itself. These changes are the first steps in an intergenerational set of processes for institutions in Pakistan that will lead to a deepened and more resilient Pakistani democracy. None of the institutions involved are flawless, I admit, and all of these institutions need sustained investment of bipartisan effort, the type that we have seen in each of these constitutional amendments, where each of these political parties may disagree with each other terribly, but have come together for what is truly considered to be national interest of Pakistan. Now, as I said, democracy is the first of these three unique, innate, uninterruptible qualities that will ensure more prosperous, safer, and more enriching lives for young Pakistanis than the lives that our parents and grandparents bequeathed us. The second one is demography. Now, demography is, Pakistan, as I said, is one of the youngest countries in the world. Just how young? Half of all Pakistanis today are below the age of 20. That is roughly 90 million Pakistanis. More than 60% of Pakistanis are under the age of 30. That comes to almost 110 million people. What are all these young people going to do in the next few decades? For starters, they will be entering working age, and even with a population growth rate that is slowing, the number of Pakistanis entering the working population is set to grow rapidly, at least for the next 3, possibly 4 decades. There's the obvious elephant in the room as these millions of Pakistani girls and boys evolve into young women and young men. They will need jobs. Now I can go into a long and detailed analysis of where the jobs may come from and what the current obstacles to job growth in Pakistan are. But I would not bore you with those scenarios. I'll just use the cynic's position as a point of departure. What if we don't find a way to allow these millions of young Pakistanis a chance to be part of the marketplace, a chance to live a half-decent life, What will happen then? Usually, this is where the so-called experts on Pakistan's, Pakistani press the panic button. The weak and unsubstantiated sleight of hand here is to treat the growth of Pakistan's working population as a massive edifice of agency-less individuals in a social and political vacuum. Now, luckily, that's not the case. Remember what I told you earlier about democracy being an innate strength for Pakistan? So, if these millions of young Pakistanis do not have confidence in the direction their lives are headed in, if they feel that the government of the time cannot protect them from the vagaries of the marketplace, the cruelty of inflation, the randomness of joblessness, then what will they do? They will make sure that people who offer a better future are given a chance to govern them. In a democratic Pakistan, failure to engage and sustain the aspirations of young Pakistanis is not an option anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, another change that has taken place in Pakistan is the growth of Pakistan's middle class. In 2005, former State Bank Governor Dr. Ishrat Hussain estimated that the size of the middle class will be approximately 30 million. To cut the long story short, recently, another very renowned academic, Dr. Nayyab, at the Pakistan Institute of Development Economics, has estimated that the actual size of the middle class, if you account for factors beyond the status of a middle-income family, is about 35% of the population, or more than 60 million of Pakistanis. Something certain is therefore in the air. As everything from fast-moving consumer goods to automobile sales surge in Pakistan, global giants like Nestle, like Unilever, and Colgate-Palmolive now openly speak not just of its city's growth, but growth in rural Pakistan too. In October 2011, the Business Week magazine reported that Pakistan's growing rural income has helped boost Unilever's revenue there by 15% and Colgate-Palmolive's by 29%. For an economy that is supposed to be on the ropes, we sure seem not to have gotten the memo. The first two qualities in the series of unique, innate, and uninterruptible qualities, that of democracy and demography, that will ensure more prosperous, safer, and more enriching lives for young Pakistanis than the lives that our parents and grandparents bequeathed us, I have just mentioned. The third is a little more messy. It's a little more complex. It's therefore a little more interesting. It is that of dissonance. Now, dissonance is the word I use to describe our national discourse today, because each and every viewpoint or narrative has a competing viewpoint or narrative. So while we are very right to worry about the spread of extreme and obscure views amongst our youth, we are also often remiss in not identifying the competing voices in the same spaces. Once again, we find that democracy is an intensely organic system in which lie many of the solutions to the complex problems that we today face in Pakistan. The vibrant, the brave, and sometimes irreverent voices we find populating our media, not only our television screens, but our newspapers, our Twitter timelines, and our Facebook statuses, status updates are not a reflection of hopelessness, but that of hope. Our incredible capacity for self-reflection is a tribute to our constant thirst for a better country, a better collective experience as a people. The intense self-scrutiny and with intense criticism that we subject our politicians, and sometimes, though perhaps not often very noticed and not often enough, other members of our institutions, is a strength of Pakistani democracy. The vibrancy with which all this takes place is a reflection of the hopefulness of the youth, and the anger with which we sometimes express ourselves is a reflection of the passion of the youth. The dissonance of Pakistan's public discourse is a guarantor of its diversity, of its richness, and of its ability to identify problems and begin to create corrective mechanisms. Such organic discourse, corrective mechanisms are germane to true democracies. These three unique, innate, and uninterruptible qualities will ensure a more prosperous, a safer, and a more enriching future for Pakistan. We are, however, not oblivious to the risks to all this. People worry about the risk of another interruption in the democratic process. I have to say, I don't think this risk even exists. Other risks do exist. The risk of a youth surge for which we are not able to provide a viable environment of economic opportunities. The risk of a dissonant national discourse that cannot agree on anything at all. But the evidence from the last 4 years, if anything, suggests that talk of these risks far outweighs the actual risk itself. Now, few of the uncelebrated success of Pakistan, because I know a lot of you read in the papers, here in the television screen, every day, every week, every month, about how Pakistan is not working and how Pakistan is helping make the world not work. So roughly 4 years ago, TTP or Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan came together to wreak havoc on Pakistan. We saw hundreds of suicide attacks in 2008 and 9 across the country. We saw an economic growth rate of above 7% slow down to less than 3%. We saw the hard-earned national consensus that helped create the momentum for the 18th Amendment dissipate into populist political rhetoric. And we saw tragedy at a micro and macro level with extremist discourse and bullets killing both nameless and famous Pakistanis, such as Salman Taseer, such as Shahbaz Bhatti. All this while, by the way, we survived the worst floods in our history, or the active memory of mankind, those in 2010, and a repeat of floods in 2011. That was perhaps even more harrowing, especially for the residents of Sindh, for whom it was the second year of floods. Yet the democratic order has survived. For all the talk of a political breakdown, last week we passed, as I just told you, the 20th Amendment to the Constitution by consensus. The economic slowdown notwithstanding, rural and urban consumption in Pakistan is higher than it has ever been. Remittances continue to register phenomenal growth despite an economic slowdown in most of the countries that we are receiving our remittances from. The Karachi stock market continues to make people rich. The dissonance has hardly generated political paralysis. Instead, it has helped forge consensus on the range of issues, most important being the one that I just mentioned, the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. The bottom line is that democracy, demography, and dissonance have strengthened Pakistan at a time when the prognosis was nothing but doom and despair, when the global economy was slowing down, and when Pakistan's relations with key partners were undergoing unprecedented stress factors. After 6 decades almost, We are, for the first time, I believe, breaking away from the shackles of a decades-old security-led paradigm, where our foreign policy objectives and interests are derived from that particular paradigm. We are, as we speak, redefining our national interests. A set of national interests which is going to be people-centric, which has the person and his future at the center of our policy making. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say that for far too many years, we have allowed ourselves to live in fear of each other within the region that I come from. We have let fears determine the future course of action for the time and also for our future generations. I'm reminded of a couplet which I'm going to translate from you. This is a poet from Pakistan who says that I have witnessed those times in which the mistakes are only made in moments. And this is obviously not translation which I will go by, but I'm just translating what is said in Urdu in English over here. So I have witnessed those times in which the moments have made the mistakes, but centuries have paid the price for those mistakes which were only made in moments. So in this region, and Pakistan is not the only one, we have made a lot of mistakes which were only in moments, but we have spent decades, now 6, in living through the ramifications of those mistakes. And I speak of each of the neighbors that Pakistan wishes to reach out to. And Pakistan wishes to reach out to on terms which is that of peace and stability, and that is it. And therefore, we redefine our national interest as that which aspires to achieve peace and stability within the region, so we Pakistanis can concentrate on our own strengths, on the strengths that I mentioned to you right now. So we can build a better future for our children, so that the region that we come from, the region of South Asia, is not known for the highest number of poor that it hosts, but the highest number of dynamic, resourceful, younger population that it has. Now, in the same way, when it comes to Afghanistan, Pakistan is following a consistent policy of ensuring that as a neighbor, we are respectful for whatever decisions the Afghan people make for themselves. And I also want to mention over here that please do not forget, when you hear the narrative that Pakistan is cause of all the problems in Afghanistan, that Pakistan happens to be the country which has lost its stability in the last 10 years in trying to achieve stability for the world and for the region and for Afghanistan. We are the ones who are worse off. We are the ones who have lost now 30,000 of our civilians, almost 10,000 of our paramilitary, military and police forces. We are the ones who, pre-9/11, had only one suicide attack in Pakistan, and after that, the number I do not even remember because they run into hundreds. So we have lost because of trying to play a proactive, positive role in trying to achieve peace and stability in Afghanistan and elsewhere. So we will be very, very clearly behind whatever the Afghan people decide for themselves. So ladies and gentlemen, let me just end by saying that in this new aspiration, we will ensure that every relationship that we follow is something which is open to public scrutiny, which is open to people's aspirations, which is open to the ownership by the people of Pakistan. And what we are currently pursuing with the United States is exactly on the same track. We do not feel that it is in our interest or in the interest of our Western friends, including the United States, to pursue a relationship which is not believed to be in the interest of Pakistan by the large number of Pakistan. We need to reorient it and ensure that it is a relationship which is based on mutual respect, and also it is a relationship which is seen to be working for mutual interest, not unilateral interest. Because if you try and pursue a relationship for unilateral interests, one way or the other, you will lose out steam. So, inshallah, let me just say that as a representative of the Pakistan People's Party, whose founder, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, gave the dream of roti, kapra and makan to his followers, to his party members, to his country, let me just say that it is sad that even today it is a distant dream for Pakistan. And it is for all of these reasons that we need to make sure that we are able to live in peace within the region, with Afghanistan, with India, with Iran, with China, within the region, within the broader region, so we can concentrate all our energy on ourselves. Thank you.
The most important thing I would look at is the relationship between the judiciary, executive and the legislature. I think that's very important in the constitutional ethos considering what's happening right now.
I would probably try to ensure a divorce between the close relations between the Pakistani government and the Pakistani military, because if you notice now, Imran Khan has actually been saying very little about the government's relations with the military, so that would be the number one thing I would change.
To bring the military institutions under the cabinet and the parliament?
A lot needs to be changed. I mean, I'm into the Department of Education, so I believe that education shouldn't be for the rich only. It should be for the poor, and it's not that we need to change the curriculum of our universities and we bring change from the AO levels, but I personally believe that we need to bring change from the grassroots level, from the primary level.
Education, justice and the police reform. Obviously, I mean, these are the key things you need to develop, you need to do to develop your country. And then I will look at the external, like the foreign affairs, with the education and police and justice system. That really needs to be fixed in that country.
Oh, I would propose a lot of changes, but the first thing I was just telling my friends here is the current issue of Balochistan that's going on. So I felt that the foreign minister, I mean, she's really, her talk was okay, but she kind of, says that she was mentioning the positives of Pakistan, but she wasn't going into the current affairs. And she was saying that this Balochistan situation, we'll handle this. Pakistan has been handling everything that comes to it. But I feel that, it's basically just kind of emotional talking and nothing is really going to happen. We all can see that Balochistan might have to eventually separate as a province in the end, but I feel that they don't really have a plan of action. So I would say is the first thing to do is to talk less and do more.
I am from Singapore, so I would not become a Prime Minister of Pakistan to begin with. I think for Singapore, which is a very small nation, I think its strategic interests in Southeast Asia and basically being able to punch above its weight, given that it's a very small and vulnerable nation. So really continuing the policy of diplomatic tact with all the countries in Southeast Asia as well as the other countries.
First of all, of course, as you said, it's basically education. I think because we have so many different levels of education, like even in the grassroots level, primary level, there is madrasa, there is OA levels, then there is Urdu medium and all. I think there should be some, up to some level, there should be equivalent studies, which should be compulsory for each and every student, apart from where he belongs to. Secondly, regarding, I would say, what's happening against terrorism and all that stuff, I would like to say that we should solve this insurgency in Balochistan also, maybe give them the rights for their resources which they got. They can decide what they want with their resources. They want to sell the gas to other provinces, or if they want to invest that money in their own region. I think that should be done. Every maybe province should be given the right to decide for their own future.
I think there's a big similarity between the Indian and Pakistani culture, and people on both the sides, they like each other. It's just the differences between the governments. And
in majority, if you talk of it, I think no Indian really hates a Pakistani. I think they hate the Pakistani government in a way, if they do. And I think same for the Pakistani people. So I think the government, I think the ministers need to just stop having meetings and coffees and just sort it out. I think it's high time they do it.
I think we can all sort it out, but it has to be they have to be a bilateral agreement between both of the countries. So in that case, it can be sorted out. Yeah.
I think that one issue that really I am aware of is that in rural Pakistan, women are very highly discriminated on religious and family grounds. And I think the solution to this is, I think the government should invest in education in rural areas and promote religious tolerance so that things like this don't happen. I don't know on what scale is that, but I think it's something that should go together with democracy and development, that not only there is gender equality in highest positions in the country, but also gender equality in rural poor areas.